Hi, folks. Welcome into the It's Official podcast. Jeremy Plonk from First and Express Bet, joined by the birthday boy, Jeff Siegel. Welcome in today, Jeff. We've got a lot cooking in terms of Breeders' Cup. 13 days from now, they will pre-enter for the Breeders' Cup. A ton of preps run over the past weekend. We've got a lot to sort out.
Yeah, it's a good week to be looking back and then looking ahead. I, as a birthday boy, hope that I have many more to look ahead to, but I'm getting up there, so I'm kind of crossing them off the wall now. You know, I feel good. That's the main thing, and I feel even better after looking at some of the races that we had last week and looking forward to a glorious and very competitive Breeders' Cup couple up. In fact, I had a nice long conversation with the Breeders' Cup people, and they were telling me how hard my job was going to be because of all the races I'm going to have ready to roll out draw time. Not like I can sit back and look at the PPs. I better get them early, and you're going to help me. So
all right.
We'll look forward to that. But I thought we saw some excellent performances last week and a couple of disappointing ones, and that's going to happen. Right. You hold your breath if you're an owner with the Breeders' Cup horse, and sometimes the last prep is one that maybe you should not have taken. So we'll talk about that as well. But let's look at a good group of 2-year-olds to start things off, because I mean, I think it's going to be a really, really strong race.
Yeah, as the older horses take more and more time between starts, it seems like their preps are already mostly in the clubhouse. We had a few for the older horses last weekend, but primarily it was last call for the 2-year-olds. And in a lot of cases, first call for some of these 2-year-olds to be on the big stage. So let's start there with our first of 5 topics this week. We have a new leader in the 2-year-old class, perhaps, after 3 major preps run this past weekend from Sea to Shining Sea. Let's start off with East Avenue in the middle of the country, maybe the most impressive in winning the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland.
There's a quarter mile to go. They're coming to the top of the short stretch, and East Avenue leads it by 5 lengths as they turn for home. Ferocious second a length, and Dapper Moon is third off the final turn. It is East Avenue working into the final furlong of the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. Maintains a 5-length lead back to Ferocious in second. Dapper Moon is third. East Avenue will prove much the best in the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. Tyler Gaffalione checks over his shoulder. A widening margin at the wire for East Avenue. 1 minute, 43.17 seconds. He wins it. Ferocious home second, followed by Filoso, who made up a lot of ground to come from far back.
The most impressive, perhaps, of the weekend, Jeff. We will look also at the races in New York and California in a minute, but you wanted to lead off with this one. What do you make of East Avenue?
He's good. And I know he's 2 for 2 in both races were gate to wire. And sometimes that can fool you a little bit. But this colt doesn't strike me as a need the lead type, Jeremy. He's just going to the front because he's just better than everybody else. And if he had to sit back and sit second or third, which he may have to do in the Breeders' Cup because there may be other horses in the race that are more committed to go to the front. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to bother him. The 90 buyer number was strong, beautifully bred colt by Medaglia d'Oro. Out of a unraced Ghost Happer mare, but the second down was terrific, and it's a typical top-class Godolphin American family. I just think he's extraordinary, and in looking at the visual performance, numbers-wise, he's the fastest in his class, but visually, he's just dominant as well. What do you think? Do you think he's potentially the favorite come Breeders' Cup Day?
He's right up there. He'll be first or second choice. Brendan Walsh trains this one. If it was a Brad Cox Godolphin horse, you'd almost say favoritism for sure, just because the amount of money he takes. Will Brendan Walsh take as much money when you've got Chad Brown and Bob Baffert to consider in the race? That's probably worth maybe a point or point and a half, 2 points on the tote board, honestly, the way the public and the big event public would bet this race. But, you know, my concern with East Avenue coming off of his debut win, we featured it here on the show. He was one of our stars at tomorrow when he debuted at Ellis Park this summer. My concern was he had the 1 6-furlong race on the resume, and to go right into the 2-turn Grade 1 stakes race, that hadn't been a winning formula in the Breeders' Futurity. So I thought Ferocious, who had 2 races, the 7-furlong race and the Hopeful, was kind of the better play on Saturday. It turned out Foundation was much overrated in that particular case because, well, natural talent, he was just too good. The track was fast. They were running on the front end for sure on Friday and Saturday at Keeneland with success, but I take nothing away from the effort there. I thought it was outstanding. So East Avenue, certainly one of the major players to talk about in terms of the Breeders' Cup. Juvenile, and the Juvenile favorites roll right now at oddschecker.com. He is the 9-2 second choice in the international bookmakers markets towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. The favorite we'll talk about next. His name is Chancer McPatrick. He had already won the Hopeful at Saratoga. He came back then and stretched out to a mile in the Champagne at Aqueduct over the weekend, and pretty much same result.
To go, the posted half mile time 45.59, 3/4 in 1 minute 11-1, and the leader is Tip Top Thomas, but has to deal with Chancer McPatrick, who's rolling down the center of the racetrack. Tip Top Thomas to the inside, Chancer McPatrick with every shot to run this rival down, and now Chancer McPatrick is in front. A 16th left to go, was last, now first, and Chancer McPatrick wins the Champagne impressively and punches his ticket to the Breeders' Cup. Chancer McPatrick wins it over Tip Top Thomas. Finishing third was
So he's the 4-1 favorite according to oddschecker.com in the international markets. Good argument can be made for either of the first two that we've looked at so far. Chancer McPatrick, Jeff, do you detect the theme? Chad Brown's got these come from behind colts now on the dirt. You think Zandon a couple years ago, and then last year, with this current 3-year-old crop with Sierra Leone, Chancer McPatrick just kind of looks like the third iteration of that. What do you make of his victory in the Champagne over the weekend and his Breeders' Cup prospects?
92 buyer number in this race compared to the 95 that East Avenue earned, but that's pretty close. And my issue with Chancer McPatrick is not his ability. He's really good colt. He's got a tremendous turn of foot. He loses ground because he rallies wide. My issue is his total lack of tactical or gate speed. It's one thing to go a 1-turn mile at Aqueduct and drop dead last and then make this one huge run on the turn and out and go past horses that are good but not great.
Right.
You cannot pull that same stunt at Del Mar 2 turning. It just doesn't work. You can't make up that kind of ground. And if he's going to drop back and spot his field several lengths, which I don't think that's the plan. I just don't think he gets going. He's one of these horses that they're not taking him back and then letting him run. He just drops out of it on his own. And I'm just worried that he's a 1-turn horse, even though he can go a mile. I'm not saying he can't do it. I just would like to have seen it. So that's my issue with Chancer McPatrick, which is why I give the edge to East Avenue. At Del Mar, at the top of the stretch, you're not going to make that same move and win. I guarantee it, especially if you're running against good horses like East Avenue. So right now, if I had to choose one or the other, even though it's pretty hard to buck the connections and Chad Brown and all that, I would give the edge to East Avenue. I would, just because of the tactical speed. And there's another horse who I wouldn't completely dismiss either if you're talking about the conversations of who could possibly win this race. Let's not forget about Jonathan's Way, the Ohio bred. He's really good too. And I think, I'll train him up to the race, but I think he's going to be, he won his race at Churchill on the lead. He's got tactical speed as well. Right. So one thing I'm sure, though, Jeremy, is this is a better than average crop. Now, I thought last year's crop was terrific too. I don't know if we got quite that level of depth in it, but top 3 or 4 are awfully good. And right now, I would be tempted to go with East Avenue. I'll watch them train, and we got a few weeks yet to make a further evaluation. But, it's nice to have a couple of unbeaten colts like this in the field, and we'll see who turns out to be the best.
Yeah, Jonathan's Way, you mentioned Phil Bauer trains based at Churchill Downs right now. He worked last Friday, so he's on a Friday work pattern. We'll probably see him back again training this Friday, winner of the Iroquois Stakes, and of course his debut impressed at Saratoga. He's 5-1 in the international market, so 4-1 Chancer McPatrick, 9-2 East Avenue, 5-1 on Jonathan's Way. One horse who's not getting any love in the international markets at 16-1. The winner of the American Pharoah Stakes over the weekend. The Bob Baffert trained Citizen Bull. They're kind of taking turns beating each other on the West Coast.
Show of Force, who just went by, start Mo Up. There's a half mile left to go, and Citizen Bull has it all his own way. Has it a length and a half to Getaway Car. Then it's McKenzie Street, still stride for stride with Emerald Bay. Emerald Bay takes third, 3 furlongs from home. Another 4 back to Mischief River, who's on the outside of Show of Force. Start Mo Up is far back. They're coming to the quarter pole. Citizen Bull Means Business leads the way by a length over Getaway Car, who's trying his best to close the gap. 4 more Emerald Bay and McKenzie Street. Top of the stretch, Martin Garcia still hand riding Citizen Bull. They've spurted 3 clear of Getaway Car, followed by McKenzie Street, who picks it up a bit late, coming to the 16th pole, and it's Citizen Bull with a 3-length lead. Getaway Car did his best, but was second best. Citizen Bull punches his ticket.
So they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. The Bafferts here in the 2-year-old stakes program on the West Coast. Talk about Citizen Bull, Getaway Car, the runner-up, and how they may project forward.
Well, I knew this race was over going to the clubhouse turn. I'm a really good handicapper at Santa Anita if I can make my picks at the 7/8 pole, because on this track, on this track, it is so pro speed. And Citizen Bull had trained really well prior to the Del Mar Futurity, but he didn't get out well, and he wasn't on the lead. That's another speed bias track. So he was a very disappointing and well-beaten third, beaten 6 lengths. But this time he made the inside. He was from an inside draw, and he made the lead. And Getaway Car was into a stalking position, which I thought would work for him. But then I forgot about the bias. And at the quarter pole, I could see there's no way Getaway Car was going to catch Citizen Bull. So now Baffert's had these 2-year-olds change, taking turns beating each other. They don't run. They're not running particularly fast. And it seems like whoever makes the lead will win. Gaming was good in the futurity. He bypassed this race. I don't know if Gaming is any better than these. He won when he got a trip, but does he sit 3rd or 4th and win? Probably not. So I really think the strength right now in the 2-year-old division in North America is East. I think these Baffert horses are decent. They're solid, but there's no superstar among them. And numbers wise, they're not as fast as the Eastern horses anyway, even with these pristine golden front running lone F or speed biased type of trips they're getting. So right now I'm looking eastward for my Breeders' Cup Juvenile pick.
At Del Mar, where they've run the Breeders' Cup twice, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile those 2 years, won by Good Magic from the East for Chad Brown 1 year, and then Corniche for Baffert the other. So you can ship west, obviously, and win at Del Mar. We talk track bias in these horses in the Juvenile who may be, prone to speed tracks, and Del Mar probably will be a speed track for the Breeders' Cup. But there's also a unit of measure that you've got to talk about, the length of the stretch. I mean, that's part of the reason, too, why these deep closers are compromised. It's 919 feet at Del Mar. That's one of the shortest in America, and among the major racetracks, probably the shortest of all the major racetracks. You think of Chancer McPatrick, when he won at Saratoga and when he just won at Aqueduct, the length of the stretch of those 2 tracks, more than 200 feet longer, 70 yards longer of stretch once they turn for home than what he will have when he gets to Del Mar. He's got to do what he's done in his past couple starts with 70 less yards to deal with once they straighten out and turn for home, and he tries to, kick that rally in. It can be done, but it's more difficult just by the math.
Well, not only that, but you are forced to move early, knowing this, like if you're a horse has to go from off the pace. That means you're going to have to rally at the 3/8 pole and try to go by a bunch of horses who are not yet spent, if you know what I mean. They're still pretty fresh. Right. You just don't blow by them because you have to move early to get them. And once you use yourself to get by and you have to go wide, it's a tough task. It is. And that's what I'm now. For years, Del Mar had that short stretch, but it was such an anti-speed track, you could still pull that off pretty easily. But that changed this year. I don't know what it's going to be like in the fall, but during the summer meeting, it was very, very pro speed, completely the opposite of what it had been in the prior Breeders' Cups at Del Mar. So you got to go to school a little bit and try to figure out if the track's going to be imbalanced. There is going to be Thursday racing at Del Mar prior to the Friday and Saturday Breeders' Cup card. So you got maybe one day to check it out and hope it's the same, but at least it's better than nothing. But you're right. With the short stretch, the pro speed track nature, I would be very I joked about City of Troy and don't wait too, go tell us trainer, don't wait too long because you can't make that big move at Del Mar. I hope you know that. So I might still have that conversation with him. See if Aiden will listen to me. I don't know, but you're on the right track there with trying to explain why the Rally Widers at Del Mar have a tough task.
So let's put a quick bow on this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Division. I'm going to make an assumption by listening to what you said. You've got East Avenue 1, Jonathan's Way 2, Chance McPatrick 3. Is that how you feel right now?
That's about it. I don't know. I may be tempted to change my mind. I want to see how the top two breeze in the interim. I'll see if I see something that will change my mind. But right now, I'm pretty much head over heels on the first two. I think they're quality coats. The Bafferts are okay, but nothing more. And I just can't take a colt with a style of running that Chance McPatrick has. It's just asking too much.
Let's turn our attention to our second topic here this week on It's Official and go to the 2-year-old fillies. We had some sense of some of the horses that won in stakes company this weekend on the colt side about how good they were. But Scottish Lassie was just flat out freaky in the Frisette. She didn't show a whole lot in her career debut. She came into the Grade 1 Frisette as a maiden. She left as one to watch.
Oh, and Social Fortress. Here's the oncoming strides of Scottish Lassie, and now Scottish Lassie is sent for home. Scottish Lassie is now opening up on the field, and look at Scottish Lassie open up. A final furlong left to go. Scottish Lassie is now widening this margin and opening up in the Frisette. It is going to be all Scottish Lassie punches her ticket, and she's on to the Breeders' Cup. She wins the Frisette easily. Scottish Lassie wins it over Snow White, finishing third. That was Social Fortress.
She had some left in the tank, too. Jorge Abreu's got himself one of the best horses he's had in his barn over the years. What do you make of this win?
Oh, well, here's the thing about Scottish Lassie. Sometimes you see a runaway winner, but they get loose on the lead, and they aren't pressured. Other times you see a horse that makes this big swooping move into a really fast pace. The leaders collapse, they draw off, and when they look better than they are. So sometimes you have to downgrade a performance like this. But in this case, there's nothing to downgrade. I mean, the pace was pretty fast, but she was right up in the fray every step of the way, switched off beautifully. And then when it was asked to quicken, just exploded. I mean, not only did she win the race by 9, but she did it the right way. And she ran fast, earned a good number, 24 points better than her debut. I don't know what happened in the interim between her first start, which she looked like, whatever, and then, fading third. And then she comes on and does this first crop of Mackenzie. Man, I didn't see anything in California that I could put over her. I mean, Bob's filly, we'll talk about her in a second. Immersive's got a very nice resume, but none of them look like this. What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, the international books have her all the way down to 11-2, 5.5-1 for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies for a filly who, 72 hours ago was a maiden going into the Frisette Stakes. She ran fantastic 96 hours ago, I guess, 4 days since now. Very, very impressive. And these Mackenzies and Vacomas are flat out running their eyeballs out with the first crop. There's a lot to like there. And, of course, we talked about it on one of our other handicapping shows. Might have been this one last week or Friday. But no race has been more telltale in Breeders' Cup history than the Frisette to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. It's produced and springboarded more winners than any other prep race out there in any of the 14 Breeders' Cup divisions. So a good Frisette is a good barometer towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies, and this was a great run in the Frisette. Now, the Frisette Stakes was completely depleted. Senza Parole would have been a huge odds-on favorite. She was injured and sidelined for the rest of the year and out of the race earlier in the week. The Queen's MG, a multiple stakes winner from the summertime. We don't know how far she wants to run, but she was scratched too on race day. So a lot came out of this race, and that's why you only got 6-1 on the horse who was coming out of a loss in the maiden ranks in a Grade 1. But she does not look like, a surprise anymore. She announced that she's here, and she's going to be really interesting to follow. Such a big effort, though, Jeff. You wonder about the bounce, whether you subscribe to that as a sheets player or just a commonsensical look at things. Did she run too big in this race? She's one that you really want to watch train, I think, right? I mean, if she trains like a bear moving forward, you've got yourself something. If she struggles a little bit in her training over the next, 3-4 weeks up to the Breeders' Cup, she might be one where you think could regress off of that effort. But this was fabulous.
No, you're right. That's why you got to. Right now, she's a one-hit wonder. Okay. Right. But if she breezes well between now and Breeders' Cup Day, then you might say, no, this is for real. I mean, we don't know. She's only had the 2 starts. So it wasn't like she just got good. It wasn't like there was a track bias. It wasn't like it was a wet track. It wasn't like she got loose in the lead. It wasn't like there was a pace meltdown. I mean, she did it. She did it the right way. And then they went 22-4, 46-1. And she's right up in there. So if there is a fast pace, she should be able to deal with it on Breeders' Cup Day. And if there's a slow pace, obviously she won't be that far back, assuming she breaks. So I really like her. Again, the 90 buyer number, very legitimate number, very legitimate for her. And again, a 24-point improvement from her maiden race. And I think she's right now, I mean, like I say, she's as you mentioned, she's the favorite in my book right now.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned the trainers, not to be any knock to those trainers whatsoever, but they do impact the tote board. And when you look at Jorge Abreu winning this race, the Frizette with this filly, the other 2 bookend winners of the weekend were Brad Cox and Bob Baffert. So when they all converge to the Breeders' Cup, you take that into consideration when you look at like what's fair value on these horses. And if you like this filly, if you like Scottish Lassie, you love the fact that the 2 other leaders in the division came from Cox and Baffert, the 2 heaviest bet barns in all of horse racing. So when they get to the Breeders' Cup, if you like Scottish Lassie, you're probably going to get an overlay price based on your perception of her to win. So that's good news. Now, those 2 other horses that won for the big power barns this weekend, let's talk about them now. The Alcibiades winner, Immersive. You talked about a one-hit winner in New York. She had already had her hit. She won the big race, the Spinaway at Saratoga, and she came back stretched out nicely in the Alcibiades. She's a Godolphin like the 2-year-old winner we looked at earlier on the Colt side, but this one trained by Brad Cox. Here's the Alcibiades with Immersive.
As they come toward the quarter pole, Rich City Girl is the leader. Liam at the dust drops back to the inside. Immersive goes to second. Quick Kick goes to third. Still 5 from the lead. Top of the short stretch as they turn for home. Continuity fourth. Here's Immersive. Immersive comes forward, has the lead. Quick Kick is taking aim from the outside, but she's second. But here she comes now in the short stretch. Quiet Side on the far outside. Immersive to the inside has the lead. Immersive chased all the way by Quick Kick. Immersive and Manny Franco to win the Darley Alcibiades.
Now, Jeff, I'm big on the Brad Cox horses going a mile and a 16th at Keeneland. People who watch my podcast know I just love that angle because they usually re-break at the top of the stretch, and you only have to get to the 16th pole there with the mile and a 16th finishing at the first finish line. That horse didn't re-break. In fact, she was kind of up and down in the stretch. I think she got there. She was the best in that field, but I'm not wild about using a full stretch now at Del Mar, even at 9:19. It's still longer than the shortened stretch there at Keeneland. I wasn't that impressed here.
No, how could you be? I mean, first of all, the number was 80, so she was 10 points slower than the New York filly. That's number one. Number two, she had a great trip, and I was kind of hoping to see her accelerate and draw clear. Even if she wasn't beating a whole lot, at least she was putting distance between herself and the others. And she only won by a length and a quarter officially. And the last 16th was 7 flat. I mean, the visual matched the paper in this particular case, and the number matched them both. So, Nyquist filly, I mean, the only hope that you would have if I were trying to make a case for her is that she wasn't really fully extended and she was kind of fooling around a little bit and could have gone faster. But that's more hope than anything else. I don't know if that's true. I didn't see it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when a push comes to shove, if I'm going to look at Immersive and Scottish Lassie at the head of the lane, if they get head and head, I'm going to go with Scottish Lassie. Yeah. That's just the way I saw it. And so as a handicapper, that's all you got to work with, really.
Right. This is one of those horses, the fillies, that just feels like that. prototypical no lead, no pass. And you can't win a race if there's no lead, no pass. She's not fast enough to get to the front against the best horses in the division. And I don't think she's going to be passing a whole lot because, like you said, the fractions were slow. The visuals were up and down. She's got to keep going longer now. I don't feel good about her. She looks like one that'll be tracking in third and have no oomph to kick by anybody down the lane. She is the 7-2 favorite right now for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at oddschecker.com amongst the international bookmakers. She's 7-2. Scottish Lassie is 11-2, 5.5 to 1. Now, here's a price that we could get involved with. We can't bet internationally, obviously, here in the U.S., but non-compliant, the filly who won out at Santa Anita. We'll take a look at her in a moment. She's 14 to 1 in the international books right now. They might be exposed on that number at this point because she was pretty good in the Oak Leaf. Let's take a look.
Half mile to travel in the Oak Leaf, presented by Oak Tree. Nooney left alone on the front end. Extends that lead out to 3 lengths on 10 in second. Non-compliant gets her cue and now takes up the chase, moving into second, 3 furlongs from home. Showers is fourth with 6 to make up. It's another 4 lengths back to In the Air tonight. And Omen Joy, here's non-compliant, looming alongside of Nooney. These two square off at the top of the stretch. Nooney digging in, non-compliant alongside. They've put 4 on 10 in third. 3/16 of a mile to go. Non-compliant and Nooney are head and head. Non-compliant gets the upper hand past the 8th pole. Nooney trying her best, well clear of 10 in third, past the 16th pole, and it's non-compliant and Juan Hernandez in control. Non-compliant has won the Oak Leaf.
So pretty good, not great, but at 14 to 1, you feel like that would be a horse for Baffert and the juvenile fillies worth a look at that kind of price. We're not going to see that price pari-mutually when we get to the race. She's going to be among the top 4 wagering choices, you would think.
This was just her second career start. She broke her maiden first time out on a 6-runner field, but she did it stylishly from the rail, angled out and one going away. She said that one sprint. She wasn't on the lead. She was chasing a loose on the lead filly, a stablemate of hers in Baffert's barn named Nooney, who's pretty good. I mean, I don't know that she really wants to run this far.
Right.
10 mile was a well-beaten third, beaten about 10 lengths. The number wasn't great, but I do think non-compliant has got that stalk, pounce, and go style that probably will be effective in this race. She's not going to be in front, but she's not going to be far back. She also has the opportunity to be better in her third start than her second. I think she's dangerous, but again, she's got 9 points to make up on in terms of the buyer scale from Scottish Lassie, who has just as much right. They got the same pattern, don't they? I mean, basically. So she has just as much right to improve as non-compliant does. Non-compliant is going to get plenty of play because it's a Baffert and it's a Del Mar, and she's won there. So, right. I mean, I think those are the two that are considerably removed from immersive in terms of being top 2. I don't know where any of the other major players in this division are going to come from, unless you can clue me in. But right now, it's those two with Scottish Lassie in my book over a non-compliant, and I'm not going to be too concerned about anybody else.
Yeah, and if you had a European 2-year-old filly or a Japanese 2-year-old filly that you were interested in bringing, might not be a bad year for it. It doesn't look like we don't have a Songbird or a horse like that in the 2-year-old filly crop that just looks like they're, making everybody look like second best. So we will see how the 2-year-old filly race, the juvenile filly, shakes out in a couple weeks' time. Maybe the best Southern California 2-year-old filly doesn't even run on dirt, though, Jeff. We're just going to mention her here. Thought Process. She has looked awesome on the turf. She remains, to me, the filly to beat on a Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies turf that has been dominated by the Americans over the years. The Europeans rarely win the juvenile fillies turf. I haven't seen anybody. I know the Mott filly who won the Miss Grillo on Sunday was pretty nice too. But Thought Process, she looked pretty awesome to me in her win in the Surfer Girl over the weekend. She's one to watch.
It's funny you bring that up because when we showed her breaking her maiden, we talked about how good she was, Thought Process. And I said that she struck me as the kind of filly that had run like 50 times already. She was so professional. She was so experienced with just one race under her belt. And it's funny because after she did it again here, her trainer, Phil D'Amato, says, She acts like she's run 20 times, and really, and she's such a beautiful mover. I put a lot of emphasis on how a racehorse moves, their mechanics. It's like scouting a basketball player. You can go out and watch him warm up, and you don't even have to see him play. That guy can play. You can just tell. And this filly, now I don't know who's coming over from Europe. I'm sure there will be a few that are pretty good. They better be better than the norm to beat this filly, because not only is she's already won at Del Mar on the grass, and then she won this race Gate to War again, not because she wanted to go to the front or needs to, it's because she couldn't help herself. Nobody had come. Where is everybody? So she won by herself, but she could settle and finish second or third and win just as easily. She is extraordinary thought process, and we'll talk about her more extensively as we get closer to the Breeders' Cup.
But two impressive 2-year-old fillies over the weekend. On the dirt side, Scottish Lassie, and on the turf side, a thought process. Well, we're wondering where the Europeans may come in various divisions for the Breeders' Cup. The British invasion may be coming in the filly and mare turf after what we saw in France over the weekend. Of course, it was Arc de Triomphe Day on Sunday at Longchamp. The filly and mare race on the same card, the Prix de l'Opera, a longtime producer of horses to come over here for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf, and we might have ourselves the new favorite for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf division. Her name is Friendly Soul, and she shrugged off the competition in the Prix de l'Opera.
Fallen Angel against the rails in third. Running Line is a necker behind her in fourth place. American Sonia and Start of Day are the next pair. Sparkling Plenty content on the right, beginning a move down the centre. Hanalia, Yidang Yilang, and also Elusive Princess at the back of the field. Almara trying to fight off Friendly Soul, and her stablemate Running Line coming in with a challenge. The left one from the left is Fallen Angel. Sparkling Plenty behind those. Friendly Soul in the white jacket has the lead now inside the closing stages. From Fallen Angel, the red cap in second, the green jacket Running Line, Sparkling Plenty staying on, but Friendly Soul is in front, and she wins to her stablemate Running Line in second place. Sparkling Plenty.
Now, she is the second favorite in the international markets right now for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf. Current price at oddschecker.com, 5-1. The favorite is the Arc de Triomphe winner, Blue Stocking, at 7-2. I don't think she's coming over for the filly and mare turf. If she were to come over, I think would be to run in the Breeders' Cup turf for a lot more money. This year's filly and mare turf, Jeff, at 1 3/8, longer than Chad Brown wants to go with his fillies, who were all on display at 1 mile in the First Lady at Keeneland over the weekend. What do we think here? I mean, do we have the horse Friendly Soul to be the one in the filly and mare turf now?
I would think so. I have been overwhelmed with the North American-based runners. I don't think Chad's quite as strong as he used to be or has been. Let's put it this way. This is a filly trained by John and Thady Gosling, the father and son training team there. Of course, we know John, who began his training career out here in California 40 years ago. He's done pretty well since.
Yes, he does.
Look back. Owned by American George Strawbridge, who's had a lot of local horses. Not local, but I mean North American horses. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind coming to Del Mar and revisiting some of his past success. She earned a 118 Racing Post number in this particular win. It's not quite as strong as Inspiral, who won it last year, but she's getting better. She had won her previous race, a race called the Prix Alec Head at Deauville in her most recent start. So she's only had 6 starts. She's only been beaten once. Not bad, huh? That's better than what we've got. I can tell you that, Jeremy. Now, this race was soft ground, but that's not going to be a problem for her if she runs over top of the ground at Del Mar. And John knows how to get him ready, and he knows what it takes to win at Del Mar for sure. So I would suggest that we just saw the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf favorite. This is a really, really good filly, and I think that we'll enjoy her when she gets here.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the E.P. Taylor crowd there, the Foira, Moira, Favrover, that kind of group like that. Out west, the Rodeo Drive over the weekend, I think one of the longest shots on the board, if not the longest price on the board, upset that one. So there's not a lot of strength in this year's filly and mare turf division stateside. So one of the Europeans would be exceptionally strong in there. And again, the British invasion from Friendly Soul might be the right answer. Now, we've got some French invaders, too, to talk about from the ARC undercard. Ramatuelle, a horse who won the Prix de la Forêt 7-furlong race. She's a 3-year-old filly who is really good right now, and we've seen 3-year-old fillies have a lot of Breeders' Cup Mile success over the years, especially from France. Might she be the next one? Let's go back and take a look at her win at Longchamp over the weekend.
Matilda Picot is leading on down the full straight to Zero Stress and Tribalist either side. Poet Master in yellow against the running rail. Kinross about 5th at the moment. In behind these extra, the orange sleeves, and then Big Rock with the blue blinkers towards the right. Ramatuelle, white face for her in the center of the field at the moment. They have a long run down the straight, and it's Zero Stress of the red cap, Matilda Picot. On the extreme left is Poet Master, Tribalist, Ramatuelle coming into it. Kinross is going for a run on the inside. Extra heads the remainder. Not many have got into it. Ramatuelle in the black and white now comes to take it up as they enter the final 200 meters. Oh, she's cleared away. Look at this. Ramatuelle is going to romp home here. Kinross moves into second. Beauvatier for third, but a very...
I don't know how you say turn of foot in French, Jeff, but that was turn of foot. We've seen it over the years, whether it's Goldakova, Six Perfections. There have been so many. Mies going back. These 3-year-old fillies from France, she looks like she's in line maybe to be the next.
You look at her, if I showed you a picture of her, just a photograph, and you'd say, okay, tell me who she's by, and you see that chestnut with the blades, you might say, maybe Justify. Well, you'd be right. They run on anything, don't they? And this filly has really gotten good. Now, she's getting better. She's improving with every start. This was by far her best race for sure. And prior to this race, she actually had run very well behind Porta Fortuna in the Coronation at Royal Ascot, finished third, beaten just over a length. So this didn't come out of nowhere. She's just improving by leaps and bounds every start. And I was waiting, I was thinking that Johannes was going to be the favorite in the mile. And up until this race, I was convinced that I would be safe in saying that. What do you think, Jeremy? Are the punters going to default to this daughter of Justify based on this win? Or are they going to stick with the home court advantage and go with a colt who's got nothing but ones next to his name in the last 6 or 7 starts? But let's face it, not beating the greatest group in the world. How do you separate?
It's tough, and so many times over the years in the mile, a bad post draw, everybody jumps off, and horses win from the 13, 14 in the mile all the time. Go back and look at the charts at the Breeders' Cup Mile. You'll be like befuddled at how many horses have won from the 14 hole in the Breeders' Cup Mile. So, if one of those two draws poorly, will that impact where the favoritism lies? It would be that kind of close call, I think. Rider assignments, things like that. See, who they get aboard when they come over here. That can make a little bit of an impact too. But you would think it would come down to those two. Porta Fortuna, her rival, it looks like she's probably filly and mare turf, and not, she comes over. So, but if she comes in the mile, Porta Fortuna could be the favorite in the mile. So let's see. We got 13 days until the pre-entries are made. 15 days until the pre-entries are announced, coming up on the 23rd, and we'll all know who's in on the 23rd. Then we can start to, get rider assignments and think about these horses in matchups against each other. But this is a really fun division. The mile will be a good one. And look, with the Classic moving earlier for television and some of the big races, the turf, like the mile being a little bit later in the day, will be one of the real sit around to wait for races that we want late in the card as horse players, because I think it's going to have a lot of intrigue both here and domestically, of course. And at Del Mar, I believe, the mile has, not been any problem for the Europeans to have some success over here, coming to run here in the international races on the turf.
What I might do, Jeremy? I might submit 2 morning lines for this race because I got to give it to him before the draw. So I might give them 2, and I'll say, use that one or use that one.
Right. If then this, if then that.
Right. Exactly. Because I think it's going to be tough because you're right. The draw is important, and it's going to impact the line because a lot of people are going to stick with the home guy and Johannes, but you look at that, and if these two hook up in the top of the stretch, how do you outkick that?
Right.
I don't care who you are. So.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
going to
know.
put us on the spot because I hadn't even thought about this until like right now in the
Good.
moment. But we should do a full show, Breeders' Cup week, simply on the prices, on what the projections are, what the fair odds might be, ones we think overlays, underlays, because you're going to have such an intimate impact on what the morning line is, obviously, as the official morning line maker for Del Mar in this year's Breeders' Cup, that it'll be really fascinating to talk about and look at the different fields. So I'll put us on the spot, and we'll reserve an hour and a half or so to sit down and talk about that.
It'll
to
take
go
us
over
that
some of the
long to get
races.
them all in. I can tell you that. But you're right. I mean, it's once we handicap the races. Okay, we know who we like. We know, but then okay, great. Now who do you gamble on? That's
right.
the thing, so.
Not always the same horse, and that's where people fall into traps. You fall in love with what your handicapping tells you, but if you've got two horses that are similarly valued in your mind, and one's 3-1 and the other one's 8-1, the 8-1 is the bet every single time. It's not even a debate. So that's what we'll talk about as we get a little bit closer. But a couple international horses of repute on this week's show as we move to our fourth topic. Fourth topic on the board this week. There was the very good at Keeneland, and then the ugly at Santa Anita. Not anything with the aesthetics of, but we're talking about the performances on the racetrack. First off, let's go very good. And I wasn't sure she had a very good race left in her after a couple decent but not great efforts this year. But Idiomatic and Sunday Spinster at Keeneland, she kind of looked like 2023 Idiomatic again.
They turned for home, and Candy makes a run at Idiomatic. Loved is third toward the inside. As they work their way toward the final furlong, a Colt is fourth on the grandstand side. Idiomatic still leads, though. Final furlong of the Juddmonte Spinster, and Idiomatic just opens back up here with every stride. 3-4 lengths to the good. A Colt goes to second. Candy, then Loved is fourth toward the inside. No catching. Idiomatic winning the Juddmonte Spinster for Florent Giroux.
This is a good example of watching the leg action of a horse. Her leg action at the top of the stretch looked identical the whole way through the lane. She was just pounding it out. It was rhythmic, and she was just in a good tempo there, and the other horses got gas trying to get her. Much slower track Sunday at Keeneland than what we saw on Friday, where it was it was the salt mines on Friday. Saturday was pretty fast. Sunday, much slower racetrack. So she was impressive to me, Jeff.
She really was. Now, usually I will jump in at this stage and say, yeah, but she made an easy lead. Okay, but she didn't go slow. It wasn't like she went 49 to that. She went 23-2, 47 flat, 111 flat. I mean, that's moving pretty well. And she was. I mean, look, Candide is a 3-year-old. She's a decent 3-year-old, but it should run well in the Saratoga. But this, she just like get away. I mean, she just disposed of her like with the greatest of ease. This to me, and it was a triple-digit buyer number, so the number was good. Big, good-looking mare by Curlin, who is maybe now as good as she's ever been. Won it last year. Going to be she's going to be promoted by that track, front speed or pace pressing type of speed. I love this race. I mean, to me, this was the old Idiomatic, and I think she's going to come to California in peak form. And again, no Dare Manor anymore. I'm not so sure that she's pretty solid in the division right now.
If you look at that impressiveness that you're trying to find, and you say, well, she didn't beat all that much. She won the way she was supposed to, and that is what you want to see. Look at Raging Sea and her race in the Beldame over the weekend. She was life or death to hold off a horse who's, 30-1 in the division. So Raging Sea, she got a victory too in her final prep, but she certainly didn't follow up her win over Idiomatic the same way that Idiomatic rebounded. And then you look at Torpedo Anna. She had the fantastic race, won second in the Travers, but she didn't follow that up and dust the field in the Cotillion like you thought she would. She was they were getting to her a little bit at the end of the Cotillion Stakes. So which horse is coming up to the Breeders' Cup best? Did Raging Sea run her best race at Saratoga? Did Torpedo Anna run her best race at Saratoga? You could argue yes. But if you're talking about Idiomatic, she did not leave her best race at Saratoga. She got better the next time here at Keeneland in the Spinster, and maybe she's the one. It's, a good division this year. You've got the intrigue of Torpedo Anna against the defending champion. It's going to be one of those fun races. Again, early in the card for television because of college football, the whole Peacock NBC thing. And, it's a shame that race is going to be so early in the day, West Coast time for the fans out there. But that's one we want to see, right? Torpedo Anna against Idiomatic. It's set now. Let's go see it.
I'm not going to concede anything in this race for Peter Anna. I mean, the way I saw this race with Idiomatic, and such an old, seasoned, hardened pro mare like that. I mean, and to come into the race with the fastest fig and the easiest, less taxing race of all. I mean, I was blown away. I really was. And again, the fact that she went to the lead and got an easy front running trip, it wasn't that easy. She was going pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And I think she's peaking at the right time. Anyway, I thought we had lost this race, when Adair Manor got hurt, but we got a race again, and this is going to be fun, so.
Well, we talked about the good and now the ugly in the filly divisions. The filly and mare sprint. She'd been so good all year. Sweet Azteca. Now she put a prep in over the weekend in the Chillingworth Stakes, $100,000 grade 3, in a race where Jeff and I on our handicapping show, we kind of we said it out loud. What the heck are you doing in this race? It didn't seem to make sense. As good as she had been all year, she could have just went off of her Rancho Bernardo win at Del Mar and trained up to the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. Sometimes you squeeze the lemon and sometimes there's no juice that comes out. And that's what happened over the weekend. She got beat by one Magic filly in the Chillingworth, and it was a really, really ugly performance.
Prompted by one Magic filly, who's 3/4 of a length back in second. It's another 3 to Kirsten Bosch, 2 clear of Irish Wahine. They're coming toward the half-mile pole. And Sweet Azteca, the way she likes it on the front end, getting some mild pressure from one Magic filly, 4 back to Kirsten Bosch, kept well off the rail in third. Set down now, trying to close the gap in Irish Wahine. 3 furlongs remain. Sweet Azteca and one Magic filly. One Magic filly has put her head in front. Now it's a neck in front. Sweet Azteca will need to counter. Suddenly, one Magic filly is a half length to the good with 1/4 mile to go. One Magic filly means business. Turns for home, and Sweet Azteca has no reply for her. Irish Wahine is in fact trying to get into second at the 8th pole. One Magic filly, 3-length lead. Irish Wahine takes up the chase. It's one Magic filly. She stepped up her game in tremendous fashion, winning the Chillingworth.
Jeff, that's as bad a prep as you can have going into the Breeders' Cup. And those kind of preps very, 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 very rarely win in the 40-year history of the Breeders' Cup. I know somebody will say, but Fierceness last year, coming off that horrible effort in the Champagne bounce back, then find me a second reference. There are not many that have run that poorly in the final prep and bounced back. Just the wheels came off here. What do you say?
Well, even getting back to Fierceness, he was an off track. He got left at the gate. He rushed up like a quarter pole, and the jock took a hold of him because he knew he'd done the wrong thing. So even that I could live with, but not this, because it's not even so much that she got beat all that way. She never changed leads to the lane. She looked like she was in distress in some way. And I mean, I would not be surprised if that's the last we've seen of Sweet Azteca. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard anything about how she pulled up. There have been no quotes from the barn. I know nothing other than what I just saw, but that was ugly for sure. Now the winner's pretty good, but the low 90 buyer is not going to match up that well with the filly from the East, Ways and Means. So I think that we lost maybe the potential favorite there, and I still don't know why they ran her. I mean, I love Michael McCarthy. I think he's a great trainer. I just don't know what they were thinking. But now that filly in the East looks like she's pretty solid, don't you think? Jeremy?
Yeah, and she's dropped to 7-2 favoritism now in the international markets from Odds Checker. Ways and Means for Chad Brown. I mean, just the good night olive baton being passed for Chad, and he's had success in the division of late. Yeah, she looks like the one. We'll see. Maybe we'll get some younger horses, trying in that division as well. Maybe we get some international runners that want to take a shot at this year's Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint, because there is no longer a horse to scare them off from the West Coast, right? I mean, had Sweet Azteca not run in the Chillingworth, she's 7-5, 8-5 probably off of her previous races, just training up to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. She would have been a solid favorite in there. Ways and Means would have been a solid second choice, but now like you said, there's probably a better chance we don't see her than we see her bounce back at this point. So that's a wrap on the good, idiomatic, and the ugly performance that we got there. Hopefully she's okay in Sweet Azteca. Okay, to our final topic each and every week here on the show. As we get up and find our graphics here, it is of course, our Stars of Tomorrow.
Stars of the Future.
And we've got, a strong group here over the past couple years that we've been doing this show now that have turned out to be pretty darn good that we preview here on the program. Impulse Buy is our latest one. This one comes from Keeneland over the weekend.
Second by 3 lengths, then a shuffle for third position. B Bluff is in a tussle there as they move by the 8th pole, well behind Impulse Buy, though. Impulse Buy is just widening with every stride here. 7, 8 lengths to the good, 16th to go. Back to Quantum Burst in second, B Bluff third. Impulse Buy, Tyler Gaffalione, much the best. Quantum Burst was across the line in second, B Bluff third. Photo.
7 furlongs, 123 and change. That's the second fastest 7 furlong 2-year-old maiden race run at Keeneland since they went back to the dirt in fall of 2014. The fastest, Arabian Night, who turned out to be pretty good. So this was a very fast track on Friday. Preface it with that they were putting up big times, but this was a big time effort by Impulse Buy. She's our Impulse Buy. Rudy Brisset, the trainer here. What do you make of it?
Good. I mean, she's a Speightstown filly out of a mare that I used to really like when Bob Baffert had her out here in California. Her name was JoJo Warrior. Won the Summertime Oaks, Torrey Pines at Del Mar. Ran well. Was third in the Cotillion her year. La Cañada. She had some really good races in top-class company. Hadn't produced anything of terrible note lately, a terribly good note. Only had a couple of foals, but this one is taken to a different level. Again, a daughter of Speightstown. And just a 2-year-old. I don't think they're going to get that ambitious right off the bat and run her back in the Breeders' Cup, even if they could. She's a May foal, I think. I think she is a May foal. Anyway, bottom line is I think they'll take their time with her and do right by her and make her a really top 3-year-old filly next year, which I'm fairly confident she's going to be. When the Speightstown fillies are good, they're really good. And this one looks like she could be just that. I just, she had a run at Ellis Park, nice tightener, didn't knock her about in second that day, got a little tighter than maybe they had her, and then she was ready off that one outing to step forward big time. And when they make that kind of move in the second start of her career, as the Frizette winner did, sometimes they keep going, you know what I'm saying? Right. So looking forward to Impulse Buy and see what she can do down the road.
Even if they want to run her one more time this year and not go to the Breeders' Cup, you still have the Goldenrod there on Thanksgiving weekend at Churchill if they want to take the big step up in the stakes ranks before going to the 3-year-old season. Let's review our topics this week on It's Official. New leader in the 2-year-old class. We think it's East Avenue, winner of the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. In the clubhouse, Jonathan's Way, a horse from the Iroquois Stakes, who might be second best in the 2-year-old class right now. Freaky performance in the Frizette. We featured that one by Scottish Lassie. Blowout winner in there for Jorge Abreu. Also looked at the stakes races east and west and through the Midwest in the 2-year-old filly division. The British Invasion featured the filly and mare turf contender Friendly Soul for the Gosdens, who might be favored in that one off a win on the ARC undercard. Also on the ARC undercard, a serious Breeders' Cup mile contender, Romachuel, emerged from France in that one. We'll see that one for the mile, hopefully, over here. The good and the ugly this weekend. The good was Idiomatic back on the beam, winning the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland for the second year in a row. The ugly was the poor performance by expected Breeders' Cup filly mare sprint favorite Sweet Azteca, getting beat in the Chillingworth Stakes. And our star of the future, you just saw Impulse Buy for trainer Rudy Brisset, winning at Keeneland over the weekend. Those 5 topics are now official because Jeff Siegel and I said so. That's how we play the game, and we'll re-rack it and give you 5 more topics next week, I'm sure, with a strong Breeders' Cup flavor. We got Maryland Million coming up this weekend. Tomorrow at Keeneland on Wednesday, a $265,000 pick 5 carryover. And I've handicapped that card, and let me tell you, there's not a single in the 5 race. There might not be a race where you want to be less than 3 deep. It is a very, very difficult pick 5 tomorrow at Keeneland. And also tonight for the harness fans, I want to throw this out there. There's a 14-year-old running named Southwind Amazon. Southwind Amazon is going for the all-time North American harness wins record tonight, looking for the 137th victory of his career. He's run 389 times. Tonight it'll be 390. If he wins, he'll tie Nick Fitt's all-time North American harness record for victories. Watch and wager on race 13 from Northfield Park tonight. Post time just after 10:25. He's 2-1 in the morning line. Let's root for Southwind Amazon. And in harness racing, Jeff, you have to retire at age 15. So he's only got a couple months left, but he's got to get one win to tie and one to take the all-time lead.
You have to. You can't run anymore because you're off form. No, that couldn't be it. You know? Yes. A pacer or a trotter? Just out of curiosity, you know?
I should know this, but I don't.
It's okay. That's all right.
I'm showing my harness ignorance at this point, but Southwind Amazon, somebody in the comments section, tell us whether we're talking about a trotter or a pacer tonight. So Southwind Amazon, good luck again. Race 13 tonight at Northfield Park. It's also a special day because, as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's my sidekick's birthday. So I want to do a little something special for him. Jeff, we have a special birthday message for you, so sit back and enjoy.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
It's the best I could do with a limited budget.
No, you did fine. You know, and now that we're done with this show, or just about, you know where I'm headed to celebrate my birthday? The dentist. I know how to celebrate a birthday. You got to admit that.
On that note, we'll hold our jaw and wish you the best as we.
I still have my teeth, which is, no sure thing, at my age.
Absolutely. We will be back on Friday. Jeff will be from the dentist chair. He'll be the same age he is now, which is a spry 29 and holding. On Friday, we will handicap weekend stakes races, including the Maryland Million. We got the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup at Keeneland and a whole host of stakes around the country. So have a great birthday, Mr. Siegel, and have a great day, everybody else. We'll see you on Friday.